Oh, yes. Another Tuesday morning on the Daybreak Show, Rock City 101.9 FM. Yes, it's another edition of the Citizens Forum. Like that song aptly says, we will be looking into our education sector. Yes, this is the season where many of these young ones, the qualified ones, or even the unqualified ones, seek to get admission into the tertiary institutions. Things has really not changed. The UTME, the only way in which you can get admitted, but concentration remains on university education and not the other blocks, polytechnics and the colleges of education. Over 50% of those who apply for the UTME applied for the university education. No wonder then the National University Commission announced last week that it has over 200 applications, precisely 204 applications for private universities. Maybe this will help solve the myriad of the admission shortfalls and crises normally emanating this time when admission is in progress in our various institutions. We are going to attempt to see if this new number, a shuffle of the number of private universities in this country, will help solve that. And of course, we also look at which other way. We've talked about the need to de-emphasize university education, but that appears not to be working. That's the reality, really. But then we must do something. The population of youth, those who want to have education, senior education, keeps increasing. Of course, generally the population of the country is also increasing. Officially, they say we are 70, but estimation says we are already in our 220 million Nigerians. This and many more is what we'll be looking at this morning. Dele Ayodo is my name.
And I am Chenya Igwon saying good morning and welcome to Citizens Forum. Yes, like Dele has said, we'll be looking at the 240 new private universities application. But before then, let's take a peek to the number of registered candidates that we had for the JAMB. It totaled 1,736,571, and that was for 2017. And then if we take a look back, in 2016, we had over 1.2 million, and then that means it rose by 464,287. We have 1.7 million candidates who wrote the UTME. Where are we heading to? And we're looking at an extra 240 new universities. Okay, aside from that, we have 45 state universities. We have 40 federal universities, and then we also have 68 private universities, making a total of 153 universities. Daily.
All right, thank you for those interesting statistics, Chenya. We have somebody with us. It's not going to be just me and Chenya. You have a university administrator, a university don, somebody who's involved in getting these students placed into the one other thing Chenya has not told us is the number from which this 1.7 that these universities will be able to admit. In actual fact, it's less than 20% of those number that these universities will admit. The highest of the universities can only admit 4,000. And if you just, we have those who can, for instance, the university we have here just has about 3,500 carrying capacity. And if you multiply, let's use the highest for statistics, 4,000
Yes,
to
times the
find
number
out.
of universities that we have, that's 153. That means we have a total of 612,000 carrying capacity for each university.
That means that is
That's
the
on the high
number.
side.
No. That means that
That's
is
the
the
number.
number the schools can take from the 1.7
7,
that
yes.
has written that exam looking for admission. It's still less than 50% of that. So the other 50% will be thrown to 2018. And then, just like she said, if you check the statistics from the last 4 years, you see that it's on the increase. We have the former Deputy Vice Chancellor, Federal University of Agriculture here, Academics, Professor Clement Igodaro Iromosele. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning.
Uh,
Thank you.
Prof, we've always talked about this. This is a fresh figure. And will you say it's right for the NUC to add another 200 universities to the system? Maybe we'll get there with this number.
Well, it's a very difficult situation. One, the need to meet the demand. Two, the need to ensure quality. So in between, we need to strike a balance. The demand for universities will continue. Just as you have done, the analysis you have presented, it will be rising because every year there's a carryover number that flows into the following year. And the capacities of the universities to absorb is limited. So there are issues there. Well, there's a need for more universities, there's no doubt about that. But the real issue is whether the private universities will solve the problem in regard to capacity. One, many cannot afford the high fees that are being charged private universities. So there's an issue there. You may have the number. They may register all these 240, but they may not be able to get the kind of number of students they need. And that's already a crisis in the situation that made the poverty in the system. So there are issues about how to address these fundamentals. Maybe the public universities will probably have offered, given the advantage you have in terms of structures on ground. If, for example, minimum fee, tuition minimum is allowed to be paid, they then may be able to absorb more students. There are also issues of the faculty itself, teaching, the staff to lecture. The private universities already have this fundamental problem of training, and they have to rely on the existing number of the faculties in the system. That is not enough. So you have people, lecturers running from one university to another trying to provide services. So those are issues.
Now, I spoke with Professor Biodun Ogunyemi some few months back, the national president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities. And two things struck me from what he said that I also considered as fundamental. One is the intention of government itself setting up some of the government universities. He cited the example of the Niger Delta University that was situated in the home place of former President Goodluck Jonathan. He also cited another example of another university by the Edo State government, which he said was located directly opposite the house of former Governor Oshomale. And then, if you look at it, that these universities are not set up with the intention of solving these problems you have talked about, but rather for political and self-aggrandizement. How can we stand this? The other one is increasing the carrying capacity, which a lot of people have argued, rather than setting up more universities, even by government, public universities. Why don't you expand the ability of the ones we have to function, at least for now?
Well, I think they were dealing with carryover problems in the sense that When you may look, ask the question, when was the first private university established? Igbinedion University. That was a bold attempt on his part at that time. We should have had this university established long time ago. That is true of the matter.
Well, is Igbinedion the first one, or
Yeah,
Benson is outside University?
Igbinedion was the first.
Okay. I
Now,
thought it was Benson
no, the
outside
second
University.
point is the issue that you raised about Edo University. It's not actually Edo government. It's not Edo. It's called Edo University, not Edo State University. You know, Abusari is there. That university is charging fees. It's operating like a private university.
The same way people have accused the Osun State University.
Yeah, it's just like that, and they have raised the bar in terms of the infrastructure. It's not in any way, it's so well above what you will see in Edo State or Busari University. In all its entirety, it's a private university. So you are still going to be faced with the problem of students, the number of students, of people who can afford to send their children to those kind of places. So there are issues about, as I said, number. You will be able to get the number, but there are those who can afford it. That is the problem. If you go to public university, what are they paying? They are not paying tuition. They are paying other charges of about maybe 20,000, 24,000, as excluding hostel accommodation. And you still find students saying they cannot afford it. So we're in a dilemma. There are issues.
Okay, that means education is for the rich now and not for the lower class. Because I don't see the reason why, if all these issues you have outlined, if the private universities, the new ones they're trying to commission now, if it's not going to meet all these issues that you have outlined, then why then do we need an extra 240 new private universities? In all honesty, do we need the 240 new private universities? Because out of the 68 private universities we have, just 50 is approved by the government. Then what happens to the other ones? And then if we have 240, will all of them be commissioned?
Well, if they meet the conditions for establishing them, why not? That's the first answer to that. There are criteria for establishing universities. Once they meet them and they have a financial muscle to fund, then establish them. There's no doubt about that. I'm just saying that the quantum of students, the totality of students that they'll be able to take in the light of the economics of Nigeria, we still not solve this bloated number that we're dealing with. That is the issue. But it's not to remove from the fact that there's the need to establish more. The second point, of course, is this. There's also the requirement that to establish those universities, you must have a science component. 60-40. And I was discussing with somebody yesterday, and I said, look, why is it not possible? Because in this number of students, you have a number of students who are not interested in science. They want management sciences, accounting, economics, law, and so on and so forth. Those programs are not as expensive to run. And you can take a chunk of students out of the market if you allow these universities, private, to establish exclusive universities that are exclusively in humanities. Not necessarily science and engineering. Those are capital intensive. Yes. And then the students, they can also take quite a number for those who can afford it. Again, I must come back to that. But you see, when you now say science and engineering, you still limit them to the capacity that nobody can absorb.
Prof, as we have it now, statistics, you just said there's need to have more universities.
Yes.
But for the private universities, statistics says 68 of them, we have less than just about 10 of them that can be said to be a fully blown university that has all the arrays of its own staff without having poaching, the ones that just come from other universities, part-time lecturers, and all these things. Less than 10 of them that are doing well. That's one. Two, we also have less than 10 of them that has more than 100 students in all the faculties. Yes, in fact, there are some reports says has less than 20. A few weeks ago, former VC, University of Lagos, Professor Ibidapo Obey, in an open program, said advocated that some of these universities should even be merged because of what called this number. So if you are saying we still need more to be created, and over 200 expectedly it's coming on board if assuming that the application is granted, are these not waste of resources and efforts in futility by the licensees?
Well, I think we are on the same page in that regard. The establishing them and getting the number of students to sustain the university. That is an issue, yes. It still doesn't remove from the fact that you need to do that. But the other thing is that the case of the public university, I think for now, in the light of the economy, I think there's more hope that the public universities will provide the kind of lead to the solution. One, federal government or the government, both state, must not just fund, must deliberately look at two things. One, postgraduate training. It's not funded by government. No government funds postgraduate training. And that is where you can produce the manpower need for these universities, both private and public. They don't provide funds for research. The federal government does not provide funds for research for university. Then why is the university there? A university without research is not a university. So people spend their money or look for foreign grants. You can't rely on foreign grants to deal with national issues. Yes, foreign grants may be dealing with issues of general nature, not specific to our need. So there are issues there. But let me tell you, in all of this, we are not going to be able to solve this problem in isolation of the general problem of Nigeria. That is the point we must come back to. The universities are established as development instruments.
Are they meeting that?
They cannot, because for a long time they have been set aside. They have never been playing that role anymore because of the way the system runs, Nigerian system. We must reorganize Nigeria. That is the point I'm coming to. The holistic rearrangement of Nigeria is too germane to begin to take education in isolation of every other thing.
Before we do that, before the reorganization of the country, if you are saying public universities should not take foreign grant for research,
I'm not sure they shouldn't take. They should. I'm just saying that you cannot rely. Cannot rely on that.
Yeah, should not rely on.
Yes, certainly no. Yeah.
And of course, research is a very important component of university education. Should we then permit these private universities to just completely, holistically go foreign in all the?
They will not even get, because it's a competitive thing. It's not that if it's there in the bulk, you have to access it in a competitive manner. But the truth of the matter is that the private universities are also, the issue about private universities, government must also look beyond in terms of their faculty needs, in terms of staff need. There must be a deliberate attempt they must access, like the public university, the funds of the third fund for training. In fact, there has to be a deliberate attempt to help them, because I don't see why they should be excluded from it. They should have funds for training staff, both locally and outside of the country. They must. But the fear is always there that when you train people outside, they don't want to return. But you can develop the capacity here. University of Ibadan has been more like a postgraduate university to train. We can, once we have the facilities there, we can train. That's what we are trained to do. But the private university are excluded, and I can't see they don't have a program of training in such a way that they can build up their capacity in terms of staff. That's a fundamental
do you
issue.
think these are deliberate policies by politicians or from government?
Well, again, I would say because it's just their priorities. I would say, the priorities of government over the years have never been, that's what I said, they have set aside universities as development instruments.
Okay, so how then do we strike this balance?
Well, we'll keep talking about it as we are saying now. The balance must be that the private universities will exist side by side with public. The public can expand if you get funds, the funds for training of academic staff, particularly I want to be more specific on this. They are the faculties you need to teach, to research, to train. You need funds for research, you need funds for postgraduate studies. This federal government must do that. State government must do that. It's not enough to establish university. You just establish university, you are not funding it. It's not fair. You're not fair to all parties concerned. You're not fair to Nigerian citizens. You're not fair to everybody. It's not just to establish it and you have structures there. No. There's fundamentally more than that in university.
Let's look at admission challenges,
Yeah.
and the issues. 2017 UTM exam, 1.7 sought to go into the university. 2016, a little over 600 were admitted. Yes, many of those who sat for the exam may not be qualified, but let's work on the figure we have without postulating. If we have about 800,000 who could not get admission, and then we carry this over because it's been growing for the last 4 or 5 years, and we are talking of this inability of universities to access funds and expand. How do we then solve this admission crisis, which on the long run could split into other consequences, which may include crime?
I know. It's unfortunate that, well, over time, let's even go back to historical part. In our time, even in our time when it was so good, not everybody that sought admission got admission the same year, or even got admission at all. That situation is always there. So that raises the issue, should it be university education all the time? There are those that have the potential for other things other than university education. So you still come back to a system that limits, that not provide varieties of options to citizens. There are those that just need minimal education and they go into other things and they will be productive and they will do things helpful to themselves and the system. It's not everybody has to go to university. That is where everything is wrong in the system in Nigeria. So you need some level of education. Primary school, secondary school, thereafter. You can either decide to go technical, polytechnic, or any other thing you want to do, but it cannot all be university. Where, there's the question, why is it university education?
But is the system discouraging this and encouraging people to identify their potentials, like you said? You understand that? Is the system discouraging people from outrightly seeking university education and encourage those who have identified their potentials and go into technical areas?
The system we are talking about the policies over the years that placed, right from the beginning, placed polytechnics as subordinate to university in the manner in which they qualified it, in the manner in which they treat products of those institutions. So right from the beginning, people had decided they will not be second class, which wasn't the intent of that. But inadvertently, it turned out to be so. Polytechnics have a role to play or polytechnics, yes, and graduates of polytechnics, they have specific roles, very germane. We haven't even done that yet. Technical colleges. And then more importantly, beyond this, what other options? There are so many other options that we've seen all over the world. In sports and other things where people can vent their fan expression to in talent that God has given them. Not necessarily go to university. And that is why we see the society must be reorganized in ways that will open the space. Open the space. Okay, people go to university, come and no job. So all this we're even talking about, just go to university, come out, have a degree in so.
Certificate.
No job. So you must open the space for people's talent to be ventilated in any direction.
My other question is, can the universities themselves do this for government? Open the space and encourage people to identify and foster in their talents outside the university walls?
Well, unfortunately, somebody said, where are the Nigerian intellectuals? The ascendance of mediocrity in Nigeria has actually set aside the intellectuals. Intellectuals don't have any role in the Nigerian project at the moment. But they have a role, but they have not been allowed, or they have been standing aloof. They are not talking, even now. Even when we are talking about re-engineering Nigeria, they are not talking. We're not hearing anything from universities, which is sad, in my opinion.
Okay, this private universities,
Yes.
will it be possible if we have a reduced cost?
No, for private universities, quite frankly, I do not think that many of them embark on it as a profit-making venture. The truth of the matter is that they must break even. Just as we go to college secondary schools, they just have to break even. They don't go for profit. They must be able to provide the minimum standard. And to meet those minimum standards, you have to pay or charge commensurate fees. What they are charging is commensurate. In many of them, they refer to me, is they subsidize.
Private schools.
Yes, yeah. So when you put that side by side with the public, then you must say, if you say don't charge tuition in the public, government must also say, what does it cost to train an engineer? Okay, it's 500,000. You must, per capita, work it out on the admission, what the funding regime will be. Now, if you provide far less than that, then who provides the shortfall? So, garbage in, garbage out. That's a fundamental problem there. So the private universities must charge commensurate fees in order to be able to provide services at that level.
Okay, another thing that bothers me is, where is the place of education in Nigeria? We're looking at 1.7 million, and
Yeah.
it's not like as if we'll have all those candidates admitted this year. And by next year, some of them will still take JAMB again, and then we'll have an increased number. So where is the place of education in Nigeria, really?
Yes. Well, education is the bedrock of any society that wants to move forward. But we also know that by the policy that we have in place that we run, we do not talk of merit. Even admission processes, we play down merit. What's the merit in admission? 45%. So we are running a system in Nigeria where meritocracy is relegated. There are issues there. Now, if you want to assemble football in Nigeria, football team, do you talk about federal character? I mean, I talked about that this morning. You don't talk about federal character when you want to assemble a team, Super Eagles. How come you talk about that in other spheres of our life? Because you need to bring forth your best team. So education is not playing the role it should play. I must say quickly here that over the years, there has never been any those multilateral um, partnership, industry, society, and educational systems. There's no synergy. Industries do not relate with the universities. In any case, they don't think they need the universities. Even when we go out to say, this is what we can do, they are not there for you. And the same thing you can do by Society of Engineers. Ask them. Go and ask them. How much of their influence does government seek in what they do? And you have them like that all over the country. So there is a disconnect. Until that thing come back to, we must reorganize Nigeria for the betterment of the country and for the betterment of the future of Nigeria, born and yet unborn. There's no running away from it because we are in a state where nothing's working.
Well, since there are no plans or immediate signals showing that we will reorganize, like you mentioned, let's continue to look at issues from the ones we have on ground.
Yes.
You talked about private universities charging commensurate fees.
Yeah.
Commensurate fees will depend, what the word commensurate means will depend on who is facing it. This is what I mean, because people have said that private university education is expensive and therefore only for the rich ones. And if you are talking of a situation where we need to resolve admission process problems, the natural straight thing will have been create more universities. It will have been a straightforward thing to create more universities that we talk about. That appears not to be solving the problem for one reason we've just talked about, the fees charged. And I now ask the question, should government not deliberately come out to control fees, like you just said, or rather, should private universities be allowed to run as a private group?
Government should not come in because number one, the private universities don't even have number of students. Ordinarily, that should drive fees down. If that is the case, that should drive fees down because the demand and supply. They should drive their fees down if fees was that extraordinarily high, and they can manage with something smaller.
Because the reason why they don't have students right now is because the fees.
I agree. So you can also see the dilemma of the private. You have to put yourself in the shoe. He cannot go below certain minimum. Otherwise, they just cease to exist. So the issue of intervention in terms of, and in any case, universities must set their standard because the private universities have their mission. They have their mission. So you cannot begin to say you must uniformize. You charge minimum fees across the board. They want to have a distinction. They have a mission and vision that they want to accomplish. Therefore, you cannot interfere in that regard. But I am telling you that the natural tendency, in light of the fact that students are not there for in abundance, it would have been to drive down fees to get more in.
Okay, so, let me then ask you a generic question. Do you think we need that number of private universities?
We need
200 plus.
If you look at,
if you add that to the 68, you'll be looking at close to 300.
Well, they may not all be registered at the same time.
No, on assumption that.
Okay, assumption they all. Well, if they all meet the conditions, why not? But the point is, because in all of this, the system we gradually evolve. It will gradually evolve. I'm afraid. I will hope that some private universities will also not close down ultimately. But you must give them the chance to survive. You must give them the first option to want to survive.
Will there be any public consequence if some of them closed?
Of course, there will be. It means there will be intervention on where to recruit students to. I mean, there will be intervention there. But For now, we have not had that experience. But I see I see your genuine concern about mitigating this problem of rising demand, And in my opinion, I do not think the sheer number of private universities for now will solve that problem. Um, the problem will probably be solved, as I said, by public universities in increasing their carrying capacities. But the only way you can do that is to deliberately inject funds to enhance that.
Okay, one more question before the break for the national news. Right now, private universities are not allowed to benefit to go into test fund,
Yeah.
the tertiary education fund, whereas public education are permitted. And the argument is that students in both public and private are Nigerian students. And that if the private universities are permitted to also get funds from there, it will encourage the lower Nigerians or the less privileged Nigerians the opportunity to also seek education in the private universities. Do you think?
I agree there. I raised that issue before. If you again the more reason that if you look at the source of that fund itself, who are the people contributing to it? All Nigerians. We are all contributing to that fund, that fund. So really, it should be non discriminatory. That's my opinion. That aspects of that fund should really be rolled to assist the private universities meet certain requirements.
So it should be an open for
It
all.
should be open. It should be open for them. It should be open for them.
All right. Yes, Daybreak Show Citizens Forum from Rock City 101.9 FM this morning, looking at the challenges of admission or private universities solving the admission crisis in the country. We have with us the former Deputy Vice Chancellor for the University of Agriculture here in Abeokuta, Professor Clement Iromosele. We'll take the break to allow the 10 o'clock news to come on. After that, yes, we still have Professor Romosele with us, and then we will also take questions and comments from you. In the meantime, 32120, the short code platform, it's open, and other platforms, just send your comments or questions, but you have to type ROCK first before you type whatever you want to type and forward it to 32120. Don't go anywhere. All right, we are back. Thanks for still being there, listening to Rock City 101.9 FM's Daybreak Show. Citizen Forum this morning, looking at the pronouncement from the National Universities Commission that over 200 applications for private universities are being processed, in addition to the 163 existing in the country. That includes the public university, the state, the federal government owned, and the private universities. And the statistics showed that there are over 1.7 million candidates who wrote the UTME, that's the examination for placement into the tertiary institutions for 2017. And in 2016, only a little over 600,000 were admitted. That is not expected to rise significantly in 2017, whereas the number of shortfall carried over, which is about 800,000 from 2016, is also expected to rise and transferred to 2018. The challenge is the role of private universities in solving this admission crisis, and like our guest has also said, meeting the developmental and research importance of the country. We have with us former Deputy Vice Chancellor from the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Professor Clement Ighodaro Iromosele. We'll straight on turn the mic to your side. Let's get questions, comments, opinion from you in as much as it falls within the confines of the House rule.
My name is Isam Savine from Abadu.
Thank you.
You see, this democracy opportunity most of the S2 membership in strategic position, like the former Tiara Jua and the current acting president. And this is supposed to enhance the development of our academic sector. In this regard, we need to make available money that we used to research because of our economic nationalistic movement. You have to be 70% self-reliant. You need to sponsor research that we enhance productivity and determine the GDP. Are you getting my point? Secondly, the reason why they are unable to fund the academic as usual is because of the most of the sources of government income have been relocated unlawfully to this PPP. And therefore, government are unable to fulfill the compensation resolution agreement made with the state before they take over the sources of income of the state. So these are the reason why. We will need to compare them, otherwise we repeal the agreement and give the control of our public utility to their possession. God bless Nigeria.
God bless us all. Thank you very much. Hello, we have you. Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Gilly.
Good morning.
Good morning, Prof. Very much in the house. My name is Duncan. I'm calling from Assurity. Prof, thank you very much. You have restated what some of us have stated earlier. University education is not for everybody, and it has nothing to do with segregation. Some people are not just fit for it, and you should not force them. And not because you want everybody in university. All those populist views are creating problems and distorting thinking, rational thinking. Everybody must have. Jobs didn't have a university education. Bill Gates had no university education. But he's now the world. So your university education does not make you, it only maybe admits you to promotion, to be a clerk or a clerical officer and all. That is what it is, and that's what we are thinking of. We need more universities to expand. Look, if you ask for that teacher now, you may not find educated artisans. If you ask for a Tyler now, you may not. But these are things which are studied in some of those places, which come out when you say, what is America? It's not it's the artisan, the middle class, who hold on to it, which we don't have. But we are education, bring that the cost. I don't know why you don't say the cost of paper, Gary, or you go in the market. Why must it be education? People are talking, you must bring that. You don't need a university education to be a successful person. Even in this country, how many successful Nigerians are university graduates? Major generals and what have you. So we have to be very careful. Leave university education for those who can offer. If someone has 300 this thing, cannot be a poor person from a poor family to have 300. That is a fallacy. Because it means that you have access to computer, you don't have access to life, you cannot buy books, then how will you get 300? You can't get it. So let's not be sentiment into this.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Honorable I'm listening for some. As far as I'm concerned, I don't see anything from the more university, be it private, be etc. I would have expected more federal. If anybody that has money to take his or her to let me, that private university should go ahead. But what really matters is, of the all these universities that is really funded very well. And let's go more technological. Mining and agriculture should be the area we're going to be the center of. The studies must be well funded. These universities must be funded. I mean, so that if they continue to produce for whatever the exams till tomorrow, there are some people that will not have accommodation because of the university. Let me allow other people to call. God bless you.
All right, let's add your call to it and then move away temporarily from the telephone. Hello. Okay, that's a drop call.
Well, first, I think we are dealing with a system that I said is not working. If we have a productive system, everybody opportunities for being able to do that you want to do, regardless of what it is, we will not have this problem. Two, we have a poor reward system. What I mean by that is, if you are a senator, what do you earn? If you are a councillor, what do you earn? And these are issues, the distortion in the economy in terms of reward system is a fundamental problem also. Now the question is, how do we get Nigerian system to work in order to get the citizen to be productively engaged? If If you look at China, the way China is intimidated, everybody's busy. We don't have this massive unemployment situation in China. Yet, it's a population over 1 billion. So, how do we're still coming back to, because if we want to solve this anomaly, as I said, we'll be bringing the cart before the horse. Let us concentrate our mind on re-engineering Nigeria, the truth of the matter. Because all this is where people are talking about private university expensive. If the economy is doing well, a number of people will be able to afford it. Yes, that is the truth. Just as people send their children to private primary school, private secondary school. Yes, they will be able to afford it. The other point, of course, is that we are forgetting there used to be federal government scholarship, state bursary. These are missing now. We're no longer remembering all those things. We enjoyed it. In fact, at the third level was loan, even though that was abused. What opportunities do students have by way of state support? Now, you cannot expect that when states cannot pay salaries. So you see, where everything is still woven around an economy that is comatose, a system that is unproductive. And so, even as I said, when you go to invest and come out, what do you do? Are you engaged? So you have human resource that is unutilized, unutilized. That's a fundamental problem there. So we must set this against the backdrop of these issues I'm raising to see where should our focus be. Rather than talking about more admission, we should be talking about how does the system absorb even those who are coming out of the universities, polytechnics, and so forth. How are they engaged? That should be our primary concern now, because we have a backlog of the unemployed, many that are university graduates that are now into crime. So the issue of reduction, probably, as I said that before, leave that to market demand ordinarily. If they were there to make profit, they will set a benchmark below which they cannot go. The fee will drop naturally to a level where they can say, we can't go below this. Just as a market woman that is selling. There's a level we cannot go below. So, what I can see in many of them, because I've visited a number of them, I know they are just struggling. And I really don't know how they are surviving. Few number of students. And yet they have to rely on fees, total fees, to make their budget. So what some of them are just sustaining, what's sustaining many of them is the initial input that the NUC required from them. Those are the facilities that are on ground. They are not able to add any more yet. But time will come when those things are now falling apart, they need to replacement, you have fundamental problems. But right now, they are still okay. So I looked at all the contributions get centered around what we have been talking about. The public university need to be expanded, but even at that, it requires fundamental fund injection into the system. There's no way, there's no magic about that.
All right, can we have the messages there?
Yes, sure we can. Okay, we have this first one from Oladushu Ademola. He says, good morning, sir. What is a university? Should we talk of the number and structure or quality? Are we not dissipating resources in the seeming mushrooming? Where are the manpower? And must it be university and university? Okay, that's questions from Oladushu Ademola. Then Evangelist Uriola Akinyemi from Adigbe. It's true that farming system will help us, but what can we do as money on internet has spoiled our youths? They want money without work, and if money gets to the real farmers, it will help us out of this critical situation. Education is good, but if we don't combine it with handwork, soon education will just be like tea without sugar. That's from Evangelist Uriola. And we have this from Cosmos. A nation ignores its intellectual and intelligence at its peril and risk of savage politics. Nigeria better listen to the clarion calls for imperative social reconstruction and re-attitudinization via People's Constitution with referendum as way forward. Critically, before 2019 general elections, so is urgency for INEC to acquire and contract state-of-the-art technology to sanitize our harrowing and corrupt electoral system. Nigeria Arise. That was sent in by Cosmos. Then Professor Eremosele, what mechanism should be put in place by Nigeria to eliminate issues of dichotomy between university and polytechnics to reduce the carrying capacity in universities? You didn't include your name. Then we move to the next one. Tayo from Kolobo. Sincerely, sir, most of the private universities are educational business enterprise, and even the religious schools. First class is just an honor of gain, justifying the exorbitant tuition fee students pay. The National University Commission is corrupt and approves arbitrary. What a pity. Tayo from Kolobo sent in that one. So as we finish our first semester exams. Okay, that was sent in by Honorable Mankot Yusuf from Funab. Then there's nothing wrong in having as much as many universities in the country, but the problem is, will the new ones be funded to function for purpose of establishment? The question to be addressed is that the present are not being funded to function as expected. So what happens to the new ones to be established? Why not put those on ground in good shape? The number, not the issue, but quality of whatever is on ground. That was sent in by Ade. And then this is from Kayode Olumide. Professor and the public at large, we don't need any more mushroom universities in Nigeria, not at all, because most of those we have are not even adequately funded by those who are even trying to put more on ground. The question to ask remains, how many of those planning for more have their children here in all our mushroom universities? And yet, untactful leaders are crying for more, when all we have now and can't possess any subventions over the years. Okay, that was sent in by Kayode Olumide. Then over to the tweets. We have this very first one from Shobola Rotimi Taiwo. Okay, that's from Ariwoko. Most of them are just glorified secondary skills. Instead of creating new ones, let there be merging of the existing ones. Comrade Timi Taiwo Ariwoko believes that the dropouts in public schools are the ones patronizing the private universities. Then we have Dolani Roberts. What's the use of the private universities when the average Nigerian can't even afford it? Taiwo Tolulokwe, I want to know if NUC regulates the postgraduate programs in Nigerian universities, and what is the minimum benchmark expected for PG courses? Still from Taiwo Tolulokwe, majority of the private university applicants are there to make profit, but the question is, should education be solely for profit making? Education should be a social service, especially in a developing nation like ours, and so commercialization of education in Nigeria is anti-people. That's still from Taiwo Tolulokwe. And the vision and mission of most universities in Nigeria only exist on paper. Some of them even go as far as stating unmeasurable missions. Then we have Oduwole Babatunde. Even the tertiary education, only the university education is recognized and other neglected due to God knows why. The polytechnic graduates are more practical than that of the universities, and I really can't see the reason for dichotomy as is being done. I think if the university and polytechnic graduates are placed at par, the issue of almost 60% of Jambites going for uni education will reduce. And then the need for the lecturer retraining cannot be overemphasized, as this is not being done by tertiary institutions. The quality of graduates from the private universities is another topic of discourse. All they need is the fund, and you get certificates. And private universities can't solve the issue of admission at hand because of their hike in fees. The existing government universities should be strengthened. And all those tweets were from Oduwole Babatunde. Then moving to another one from Oshumoyiwa Fatai. I disagree with Professor on TED Fund. It shouldn't be open to private universities because TED Fund is a subsidy to public universities. That's from Oshumoyiwa Fatai. Then Yemi Da Vinci. I agree with most of the submissions of Professor Eromosele this morning. He's given a sound analysis of the admissions process. but we should license those 240 universities and more. But we also desperately need to shift the societal perception of university education. Neymar Jr.'s 222 million euros transfer is more than Nigeria's education budget. We do not need university education to be successful in life. We, however, need university education to survive as a serious nation. We just need to pump more money into research instead of buying cars. I agree with Professor that we should have purely humanities or management science universities as well as the purely scientific ones. And lastly, from Yemi Da Vinci, the government can only be allowed to peg the fees for private universities if they'll pay their subventions, else they should leave them alone. And Professor, on the capacity of faculty, the academia share part of the blame. Many of my friends refuse to go to do PhD because of the sadistic professors. That's from Yemi Da Vinci.
Obviously, Professor Ramsele, we don't expect you to respond to everything, but let's just get what I saw. The last one said, yeah, blaming it on
some of the sadistic professors.
He used the word
Oh
sadistic.
my God.
Let's get your reactions on some of them.
Quite interesting. I'm happy that I've listened to those submissions people allowed to the program. The first question I ask myself, and I like to ask here, are the polytechnics undersubscribed? I'm not too sure.
Right now, they are not, from statistics, they are not undersubscribed, the public polytechnics.
And the second question is, are they properly funded?
Well,
now, so we're still back to this vicious cycle of proper funding.
So it's still the same thing, either the university
either way.
should have the same similar problem.
Yes, so there are issues there. Now, but first, to talk about removing the dichotomy, eliminating the dichotomy mechanism. How do we remove it? I still go back to the issue of reward system in Nigeria, the Nigerian reward system. If it was, I can tell you, somebody, an in-law, wanted to go and read, an engineer, electrical engineer, wants to go and do something on wedding engineering, technology, wedding technology. I want to go and do it in Canada, in a polytechnic. He said, I want to go to university. Well, there's a polytechnic that where that is an area of expertise, and was to go there, to go and do it. So in other words, the polytechnics can be elevated to that kind of status where they have capacity for certain things that universities are not doing. And if you want that, you go there. And the products of the polytechnics will be so recognized and be so sought for. And in fact, could even be preferred in many circumstances or needs to universities. Yes, that was the purpose. That should still be the purpose. If you want to shift the equilibrium, that's one way to do it. To eliminate, to begin to raise the polytechnic to a new status. But to do that means you have to re-engineer the polytechnics. The admission procedures will be different. You cannot be putting side by side with universities. They will define minimum conditions, some of which far above what the university may demand. It will not just be that you couldn't get admission to university, then you go to polytechnic. No. You see, that is the way I think it should be. Because the issue of the certification, we should record, that is artificial. You must recreate the polytechnic from a different perspective, with setting clear objectives and the funding. But to do this, and that's, I still come back to it, they will not be able to achieve this now in the present system of Nigeria. That is my fear. All of these I will say, those who call for fundamental restructure of the Nigerian state are right, and I'm part of them. They are very, very right. So that we will have a new focus. We will have a new order. And all these systems will be created for what they are and what they're supposed to achieve. As indeed, in the beginning, Ahmadu Bello, Obafemi Awolowo universities, University of Nigeria, they were created with a purpose and they had focus at that time. So if right now it will not be possible because they create universities for political ends. We want to have university in every state, federal university in every state. And some states have more than one university. That those the propelling factor or the driving purpose for all this, they are out of tune with what it should be for proper nation building. So I also believe that if the system was working and the economy is doing well, state will be able to fund, provide scholarship, provide bursary. Indigent, there will be loans for indigents, for people to access loan for education. Yes, they do that in other countries. You have loans, but that also means that when you graduate, you will have job to be able to pay back your loan. So there are issues about that.
All right, can we go back to the course? Let's see.
We can hear you. Good morning.
You see, our education should be geared towards self-employment. You already mentioned that pressure should not be mounted on university admission. This will give us the sense to expand other forms of tertiary institutions. When you talk of quality, I align with you. But to go on quality, I'm telling you, in our higher institutions, I am advising that new entrants should be subjected to 3 months diagnostic period to determine where their talent lies in any of the faculties. When you talk of research, I'm saying that there could be some wasteful researches because the result may not be honored, especially if you and the government in power that politicize education does not like my face. They will not recognize the result of my research work. So, above all, I'm saying that our education system should be geared towards self-employment. Thank you. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Before I conclude, I am saying that most of our students, this entrance into the private university do so because they want to really be with like minds. Those like minds that are from high place.
All right, thank you. We can't afford more than 3 minutes.
The issue back to choices that the private universities offer students. There are some parents that would want their children to go to a particular private university for the reason of control and the kind of environment they create, as opposed to what you see in a public university that's more open. And there are some parents that will say they cannot afford to take their student outside, not because they cannot afford in terms of money, but they think that they need, the child needs some attention. And so the private universities offer those kind of choices to some people. But the issue of affordability remains an issue. And I think for now, we just have to live with that. We have no choice in that regard. We can't be talking about integrating curricula for the two polytechnics and universities. They are not designed to be so. So in countries where they had to convert polytechnic to universities or university of technology, they have achieved the objective for polytechnic at a time and they now decide to move to a higher level. So we are not there yet. So we must now work on our polytechnics as well as universities.
All right, that's the dropping word. We are not there yet. So efforts from all circles, from all angles, should continue to focus on how to get there. We say a very big thank you, sir, Professor Clement.
Thank you very much.
Ighodaro Eromosele, the former Deputy Vice Chancellor, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, for being a guest. I'm sure, yes, he's one of the parliamentarians, even though he does not call in regularly. And to you, the parliamentarians, I also say a big thank you to you. Tomorrow, the Wednesday edition, fresh and new, will be on. Dele Ayodo is my name. I say God bless you all. God bless Nigeria and God bless Rock City.